wants to know what Earl Spence Jr. and Terrance Bud Crawford are going to do after that one-sided mega fight that turned out to be a one-sided beatdown. Terrance Bud Crawford proving that he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and there's no question about it. ESPN Ringside dropped a post with 4 opponents for Bud Crawford saying who should be next. And they had the Earl Spence rematch. I'll tell you right now, I do not want to see the Earl Spence rematch. Earl Spence got beat down bad. He may never be the same again. We don't want to see that again. He doesn't have enough tools in his toolbox to come out and beat Bud. People are saying, oh, maybe if he fights him at 154, that he would have a better chance of beating him. But the honest truth is, he wouldn't have a better chance of beating him at 154, 147. It doesn't matter. He'll never beat Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford will always beat him. And if Derrick James and his team cares about him, they will tell him that is not a smart decision. Let's explore our other options. Or simply just retire because Earl Spence took a really bad beating. The other options ESPN Ringside gave Jerron Boots Ennis versus Terrance Bud Crawford. Now, this is a fight I want to see. Terrance Bud Crawford, I think, would get the most fits from Jerron Boots Ennis because Jerron Boots Ennis is a clever fighter. He sticks his jab out, but he doesn't just stick his jab out and come forward. He also moves. He's got some lateral movement to him. He's very elusive, and I think Jerron Boots could give it a more competitive battle. And actually, Terrance Crawford would have to think a little bit more in this fight as opposed to Earl Spence, who was very easy for him, a very one-sided fight. I think Boots would make Terrance Bud think a little bit more. It would be a much more competitive fight. Definitely want to see that fight. I definitely think that's one of the fights that should be made. The other guy on the list was Tim Tszyu. Now, I like Tim Tszyu. I think Tim Tszyu is a good fighter. I think Tim Tszyu comes out, he tries to take his opponent out quick. He's got some knockout power. He's a little bit on the slower side, in my opinion. And I think the difference between Tim Tszyu and Crawford would be the speed. I just think the speed and the timing for Crawford would be a little bit too much for Tszyu. As much as I like Tszyu, Tszyu's good, but he's not on Bud Crawford's level. And, I mean, it's a fight to make if there's nothing else out there. But in my opinion, that's not the first option that should be looked at. I don't think Tim Tszyu could beat Bud Crawford. So I don't know if that's the fight that they should go in that direction. And then last but not least, achieving greatness, Terrance Bud Crawford could fight Jermell Charlo for undisputed at 154 after Jermell fights Canelo. Now, the reason that doesn't make sense is because I just said he's fighting Canelo Alvarez. And to me, when you're already scheduled to fight a fighter in a month and a half, he's got his mind set on his next goal, which is to fight Canelo Alvarez. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a fight maybe a year and a half down the line, maybe a year and some change down the line. I don't think that he should jump right into the Charlo fight, or I don't think Charlo should. It's not a realistic fight, so it's not a fight we're going to talk about. And plus, I think Bud would smoke Charlo. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think Charlo's aggressive. I think he's got some will to win, but I think Terrance Bud Crawford, it's his era. And I think we need to put some respect on his name and realize that there's really no one out there except for Jerron Boots Ennis right now that's going to give him competition. Earl Spence need to go ahead and leave that alone and let Terrance Bud Crawford have his era and his moment. Other boxing news, Devin Haney continues to make excuses and beat around the bush with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson always calls this man out on Twitter, and Devin Haney's always trying to be jokesters and really not take it seriously. Like, I honestly know that Devin Haney is scared to death of Shakur Stevenson. He knows Shakur's always around Bud. And, I mean, he mentioned that don't let the Bud win get to your head, but we all know if Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney met, that Shakur Stevenson would beat Devin Haney. I actually have a lot of people on my channel that believe that Devin Haney would beat Shakur Stevenson, which I think is insane. But I know that Shakur Stevenson is the better fighter overall than Devin Haney. And Devin Haney wants no parts with Shakur Stevenson. I think it's a fight that'll happen in the future, but not anytime soon. But Devin Haney will try to avoid that fight as long as he can because he knows once he gets in that ring with Shakur Stevenson, it's going to be ugly for him.